This is PIX on Politics Daily with Dan Mannarino.
Hi there, I'm Henry Rosoff, and welcome to this episode of PIX on Politics Daily. It is election eve, sort of. It's the Friday before Election Day, a big weekend of early voting ahead in both New York and New Jersey, and the much talked about race for New York City mayor and New Jersey governor. New polling we had just out shows that Zohran Mamdani really running away with this thing, but he's not taking anything for granted. I just interviewed him about this just yesterday, and he says he's going to go to the finish and be knocking lots of doors this weekend with 100,000 volunteers. Meanwhile, Mikey Sherrill, slight lead in our polls. Other polls have her doing a little bit better. She says she has a lot of votes in the mail. We'll be watching that. Could lead to the quote-unquote red mirage in New Jersey. That is a storyline that will definitely play out next week. But in the meantime, on this show, as you know, we really do like to zero in on important local issues. And for that, we're going to bring in Upper Manhattan Councilman in New York City, Shaun Abreu. Shaun, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Henry.
So what is going on with Riverside Drive? Because I understand, and I've driven it once or twice, although I don't live in your area. It is quite a mess right now, yes?
Well, I turn out to live right across the street from this
So
this
you
project.
know, yeah.
So I know it very well. The city entered into a $140 million project in 2018 for the Riverside Viaduct to be rehabilitated. It was supposed to be completed in 2022, and we are in 2025. The contractor, Judd Law, has walked off the project, and my neighbors are now held hostage.
And so the city is suing the contractor, finger pointing, but you know, that doesn't matter to people like you. You are the neighbor, you know, in this particular case. You know this well. Talk about a little bit of the nitty gritty of what you're actually having to face, and then we'll get into the politics of this all.
So the nitty gritty is folks cannot get access to their sidewalks in over 6 years. Folks don't have access to the bike lanes. Folks' access to the river has been cut off. We've heard testimony last week covered by PIX 11 where folks were rallying and talking about the time during which it took for the ambulance to respond to several heart attacks that have happened in our building. And that means that folks are very worried. Folks are very worried not only for their own livelihoods, but also, frankly, upset that government isn't working for them.
So what can the city do in your view right now? What should the city have been doing? Even though I know it's trying to get its money back in court, it's trying to make the taxpayer whole, but what should the city be actually doing right now?
The Department of Transportation should be enforcing the contract. If you walk off the project, the Department of Transportation has the option to default Judd Law, which, by the way, Judd Law has 30% of all city contracts. And so that gets into the politics of things. I believe the Department of Transportation is very worried to default Judd Law because it could impact not only future bidding if Judd Law decides to not get involved in city projects, or it can really mess up their involvement on other city projects. For instance, they're also working on the 79th Street project. So there's a big political calculus here that the city does not want to default one of the biggest actors. So the city can enforce the contract and make Judd Law come back, or they can default them and find another vendor to do it. At the end of the day, our neighborhood residents shouldn't be stuck in the middle of the finger pointing. We should not be in the crosshairs of the beef that's happening right now between them.
So, of course, currently Mayor Adams and Udonis Rodriguez, the transportation director, runs this. What are the top officials in charge of this, the mayor and the DOT chairperson, saying?
They're not saying anything. In fact, we tried to get the Department of Transportation to speak at a community forum so that they can speak to my constituents, my neighbors, and tell them, why is this being held up? Why can't we move forward? And they flat out rejected. And we thought that being diplomatic with them would get us what we want. And we're in the moment right now where we know we can't be diplomatic anymore, and we have to do rallies. We have to call them out. And that's unfortunate that it has gotten to that position. It feels like there's nobody at home. And perhaps because we are in litigation, maybe that's why they're not speaking to us anymore. Perhaps because they are in litigation is why they're not speaking to us anymore. But we deserve some basic answers, basic transparency. When are we going to get our sidewalks back? 75% of the project is completed. We just need a remaining 25%. If 75% of the project is done, why can't we get our sidewalks back in those areas and really address a lot of the concerns that are coming from our
So it seems like there's some practical things that could be done immediately with such a high percentage of the project complete, like some cones pulled up and some barricades pulled up. Is that what, at a minimum, what you're advocating for?
At a minimum, let's get our sidewalks back in the portions of the project where it is completed. And to the extent that you cannot remove the barricades, give us an explanation. just speak to us. Is all we're asking for. And our constituents are really asking for the bare minimum here.
And this seems like one of the areas where people get really frustrated with government when you can see the solutions in front of you, right? Like, I mean, to settle the lawsuit, it doesn't mean you can't remove the barricades in an area where 75% of the project is done. I'm also wondering, just as a layperson here, why the city can't hire a different contractor to complete this and then figure out, the lawsuit, figure out, what the other contractor owes or does not owe afterward. Are you advocating for that at all? Just get someone else in there to finish the work?
Yeah, we sent out a letter to the Department of Transportation and we asked them, can you please find another contractor to finish the job? They did not respond to that letter. At a hearing, I asked one of the Department of Transportation commissioners, when can you finish the project? What's holding it up? Why can't you find a new vendor? They said they would get us answers by the end of the week under oath. We got no response. And so I can tell you that under the contract, imagine if contractors walked off from constructing the George Washington Bridge. What's going to happen? The bridge is not going to get built? No, the city always finds a way to build. And into the contract, it gives the city the option to find a new vendor after giving Judd Law the opportunity to be heard and after they get defaulted. A new contractor can come in. We're asking the city to exercise that right or reach a settlement to get Judd Law back on the project so they can finish the job. All we want is the project to be finished.
So let's move on and talk about this big election we have coming up. And let me just say, we're going to stay on this. You mentioned we were out there a week or so ago. We're going to stay on this one. But big election coming up here. I understand you're supporting Zohran Mamdani. You came aboard after he won the Democratic nomination. Why are you backing Mamdani?
I'm backing Zohran because he is hitting the issue front and center, which is the affordability crisis. Universal childcare is such a big issue right now that's impacting my constituents in Northern Manhattan. It's sort of anywhere between $20,000 and $30,000 for childcare a given month. And you take
a given year.
Sorry, a given year. 20 to $30,000.
Father of two youngsters here. Gosh, I don't think it's that much a month, but I know what you mean. Up to $30,000
It's about $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
And for some folks, that's nearly that's about as much money as their rent.
Yeah.
And so we need to make it easier on them. And he's speaking on that very, very well. I think it's very doable. And Zohran is also appealing to the best in us in a way that, Andrew Cuomo is fear-mongering, is trying to otherize Zohran, is trying to make him this big monster that he isn't. And that brings me a lot of concern. I think he's appealing to our better angels.
Talk about the one big concern about Mr. Mamdani being 34 years old, and you and I are on the younger side in that age range as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to talk down to this, but it is absolutely a real concern that voters have about his experience. Can he run the city? Can he deal with, stuff that's not a big swing? Can he fix Riverside Drive, for example? You know what I'm saying? Like, can he do the day-to-day job? Why are you confident that he can do that?
I think he so far has shown that he's willing to make. It's about good judgment. And for instance, him bringing on Commissioner Tisch, someone who I think is not only highly esteemed, but very competent. I used to work as the chair of, I am the chair of the sanitation committee, and she used to be the commissioner of sanitation. And I've seen her work really, really well. And so my hope is that she accepts the job, and that Zohran picked someone like her shows me that he's going to have the good judgment to have the very experienced people around him. I think at the end of the day, if you can hire the right people and hire the right people for the right jobs, our city is going to be better off.
And of course, you have your election, all council members on the ballot this year. How you feeling about your race?
I'm feeling pretty good. We won by 38 points at the primary. My opponent, formerly a Democrat, is now running as an independent. Have not seen him out there, and I have not seen my Republican opponent out there either. But like Zohran, we're not taking anything for granted. We're making phone calls. We're doing digital. We're knocking on doors. We're doing everything that we need to do.
Councilman Shaun Abreu, thank you for joining us.
Henry, thank you so much for having me.
And that'll do it for this episode of PIX on Politics Daily. Of course, we've got the big show, PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino, coming up tonight at 6:30 with a re-air on Sunday morning. I'll be on the show along with a panel of experts breaking down everything you need to know about this huge, big upcoming election, the latest polls, the latest turnout numbers, everything. Check that out, please. But for now, you have a great day.